Right, we're on. Surly screaming in from the back fence, of course. Finals footy gets underway this weekend, so fizz levels are through the roof. And shout out to the TAB. Last week we pivoted, no Warriors, so we rolled out that bonus cash code on your All Blacks game. Well, this week it applies to all 4 NRL finals games, of course, exclusive to the first 100 people who claim the code, so get in quick. But, as always, type in that code STS50 in the bonus cash coupon code section on the TAB app or website. Then head along, place a bet on any of those 4 games, any of the options that fall under them, and the TAB will match your bet up to $50 in bonus cash. So that is one of the great offers. Hopefully it can lead you to a couple wins as well. Nothing better than some bonus cash to help you get through your weekend. So again, shout out to the TAB. Shout out to Better Bear as well, the official beer of the Surly Talk Sports podcast. If you're having a few tins this weekend, head along to your local bottle shop. She comes in the cans or in the bottles, so whatever is your tin of choice. A couple Darren Frothiers, few Better Bears while watching all the sport action. Only 87 calories and 0 carbs. She's always a day for it whenever Better Bear is in the mixer, so get around them because we really appreciate their support. Of course, another huge weekend of sport up ahead. Like I said, NRL finals. We've got the NPC, a massive Ranfurly Shield challenge. Tasman taking on Wellington, looking to defend the old log after taking it from Hawke's Bay. We've got to review that All Blacks game as well. South Africa pulling off the clean sweep, but personally, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. So lots to chew the fat on. Without further ado, let's tuck the teeth in and rip in. How bloody good. Regular season, she's done and dusted. The cream has risen to the top, and now it is time for finals footy. Can't wait to sink the teeth into this weekend's matchups, but before we get into those, a bit of NRL news to cover off from the round and a couple of signings in general. First up, big signature for the Warriors, Erin Clark. He's coming back home, of course, joining us from the Titans in a 3-year deal that gets underway next year, and I've seen a lot of people say that this is basically a straight swap for Jazz Tavanga. If you told me that we were signing Erin Clark maybe 18 months ago, I 100% would agree, and I wouldn't have been that sold on the signing too, but I think Clark's game over the last 2 seasons at the Titans has improved massively. He's versatile, he can play prop, he can play lock, he can play 14, he's a bit of a bigger body than Jazz as well, runs hard, has great leg speed, can ball play, and he's tough as shit as well, so I really love this pickup for us. Of course, I'd prefer that we just kept the great man, the ultimate warrior in Jazz Tavanga, but at the same time, in Erin Clark, we get a quality footballer, slightly younger too, in great form, and we get to bring home another ex-warrior, which of course I'm all about. I think he's going to prove to be a really handy pickup over the next couple of years, and you could find he plays a really important role in this team in 2026 and beyond. If guys like Tohu decide that next year is the swan song, he could push his way into that starting 13 role, or find himself in the 10 jersey as well, which he's played a fair bit of time in at the Titans. Sticking on signings for the Warriors as well, Api Nichols, the club's first NRLW signing for 2025. Current Kiwis fullback, currently at the Raiders applying her trade. She's a great player, regarded as one of the best fullbacks going around in the competition, and this is a really nice signing for us to kick things off. I'm excited to see how we fill out the rest of this roster over the next couple of months as well. Pretty crazy to think we're going to have 6 teams repping the Warriors across those various competitions next year. Exciting times for our club, and hopefully the fans that we've seen at these NRL games show up and get behind the NRLW team too, which I'm pretty confident we will. That NRLW comp seems to go from strength to strength every year. Regan Campbell-Gillard, he's leaving Parramatta, confirmed that with a thank you post on social media, and of course a lot of chat had been floating around that this was going to be the way things had played out, but we hadn't had confirmation from either the club or the player that that was 100% happening. Departing the Eels despite being one of their best players this year. Every time you watch them, he seems like the only forward every week that is consistently ripping in, yet they're choosing to move him on, which I don't quite get, and he was on $750k this year, which is a decent whack of money, but I believe that contract was front-loaded and goes down to $650k next year. When you look around at what you you can buy for that on the current market, I'm not sure they'll find anyone better than a Regan Campbell-Gillard. So this is an interesting situation for me. Of course, there were reports a couple years back in Origin that he can be a pretty prickly teammate at times, but it appears the Paraboys loved him, and he loved his time there by the look of his post too. Broncos reportedly they're keen. Kevy Walters wants to get his mitts on him as they look to toughen up their forward pack and add a bit more mongrel in the middle, supposedly, on their rebuild for next year. I think he'd be a great get for the Doggies as well. An undersized pack that could do with a big bopper who just trucks nut and plays that aggressive style of code through the middle. I'm keen to see where he does end up because I still think he's got a couple more years of good footy ahead of him, and he could be a bit of a bargain if he lands in the right destination. Speaking of this week in finals games, some big names return from injury, which we all love to see as fans of the game. The People's Chin, Nathan Cleary, the Prince of Penrith, he's back for the Panthers, ready to needle up, get some cortisone in that shoulder and go about his work as he looks to chase his fourth straight premiership and what is the farewell tour for some of his best mates as well in Jerome Luai and James Fisher-Harris. Tommy Turbo, he's back for the Gulls as well, also with that shoulder, so he'll be joining Nath on a one-way trip to Cortisone City. Lil Pappy, he's back for the Storm, which is great news. Another injury-disrupted year for him, but as soon as he's back in that one jersey for Melbourne, the instant impact he has is bloody huge. And then for the Doggies, two big uns for them as well. Their star playmaker in Matty Burden, and then Bronson Jerry, who's made a massive return to the NRL this year. I think he's exceeded everyone's expectations in the centres. Both of those two are back. Can't wait for this weekend's matchups. I think we're going to get treated to 4 great games of code. Going to do things a little differently this week. I'm going to cover off the majority of the results in this week's preview about the teams if they're needed. I did want to touch on the Spoon Bowl though before we moved on. What an occasion that was. A heck of a hyped up game. Almost forgot it was for last. It had been built up like a finals game. A sold out crowd, social media posts left, right and centre. The banter was flowing. Sky Sport even had a wooden spoon up as the image in the preview on your Sky Sport Now, which was elite scenes. Watching the game though, I think we're reminded pretty quick that these are the two worst teams in the competition. 86 points scored in 80 minutes, 72 missed tackles, 29 errors. How bloody good. A couple points from this one. Clint Gutherson, elite actor. Surely he'll be up for an Oscar nomination for Best Male Lead. I love the bloke, but he's really got to sort that shit out. He was diving all over the show, trying to milk penalties left, right and centre. Parramatta, just way too good. 60 points on offense is pretty entertaining. I did think, though, the Tigers, they came out and played a real brand of fuck it footy. Clearly, they weren't afraid of winning their third straight spoon. And on that, everyone commends the Panthers and how consistent they are, winning 3 straight premierships. Well, the Tigers, they've now won 3 spoons on the trot, and it's not going to be easy for them to avoid winning a 4th straight either. When you look at the players that brought in for next year, Jerome Luai, Sinia Taruva, Jack Bird, also a nice pickup, but at the same time, a lot of other teams aren't losing many players and plenty are getting stronger as well that surround them on the ladder. It's not going to be an easy feat. I do think they'll be better with Jerome in the 7 jersey and looking forward to seeing him partner up with Lockie Galvin. But overall, I was just gutted for Benji for this one. Had high hopes that they would have won this game, but look, clearly they were well and truly beaten. So well done to Parramatta. And then finally, before we get into this week's games, attended the Warriors prize giving on Sunday night, so just wanted to give you a quick little run through on what went down there. She was a bloody great night. Club flew in. Old Yvonne Sampson is the MC as well. They brought in the big dog fresh off the plane from Australia, which really set the tone. In terms of your award winners, shout out to Jacob Laban. He got NRL Rookie of the Year. Seems like the nicest bloke going round, and the best part for me, when Yvonne asked him what his plans were, his goals for 2025, he said he hopes to be back up on that same stage, but winning the NRL Player of the Year. So you love that from the young fella. In terms of your players player, that went to AFB. For me, he has to be Dalian Prop of the Year again. He was outstanding last year, but in my opinion, when you look at the stats, the numbers and whatnot, he possibly exceeded that this year, which was a massive knock, and he's going to be unreal for that Sharkies pack next year. Shit, did they get themselves a good one. And then for your MVP, I think everyone saw this coming. Your Simon Mannering medalist had to be none other then our stand-in skipper, the great man Mitch Warnett, aka Mana Mitch. And what a year he had. Of course, finished the year as our captain once Tohu bowed out, and I thought his leadership was massive for us. You could genuinely tell when he wasn't playing in games, because I thought our standards dropped massively, and I think I said it at the time once the Titans dished up that 60-point spanking to us, but I don't think there was any way possible that that scoreline would have gone down if Big Mitch was lacing up that day. I thought his ball running this year, his effort areas, the way he flattens blokes on D, just that mindset to go after people. He always leads our line speed. He drags other players with him as well. I don't think anyone saw this level of performance in him when he came across from Newcastle. Of course, made the move as a bit of a firecracker, a bit of a scallywag, but a player with so much potential. Just looked like at times he was over-aggressive and got a little bit carried away. Now, it's fair to say he's achieving what he was set out to do. He's still hungry for more as well, so I'm excited to see what he dishes up next year alongside James Fisher-Harris. Those two could be the best propping combination in the competition, or maybe Webby looks to push him back to an edge as well. It's going to be interesting to see the makeup of that forward pack next year. And then finally, wanted to shout out Moala Graham-Tulfa as well, who's won the New South Wales Cup MVP and the Players Player of the Year. I mentioned that a possible centre options for next year are well and truly stacked. I threw Chans in there alongside Rocco, Ali, and Adam Pompey. I forgot to mention that Moala Graham-Tulfa will well and truly be putting his hand up, and perhaps out of sight, out of mind a bit in New South Wales Cup, but clearly he won the eyes of the players and the coaching staff, so keep an eye on him for a massive 2025. I thought every opportunity he got in first grade this year, he was bloody quality. But on to this week's game, of course, finals week 1, no more Thursday night footy till March next year, which is sad. It does really break the heart, but at the same time, we get dished up 4 quality clashes. Kicks off on your Friday night, 9:50pm, with the Panthers taking on the Roosters, second versus third, but it's probably sides coming into finals in much different scenarios than how they would have liked to. Of course, the Panthers off the back of an 18-12 arm wrestle against the Titans at home, who really made them work for it. I expected the Panthers to go into that game and make a statement, but the Titans, they pushed them all the way, and the Panthers' form over the last month has been a little patchy. Lots of people saying that they are primed and that if teams are going to pluck them, then it's going to be right now. The Roosters, they come in off the back of a decent win against the Bunnies, but they've been hit hard with injuries to star players, so they're far from full health when it matters most. The Panthers, big in for them, like I touched on before. Nathan Cleary, he's back to partner Jerome Luai in the halves, and an otherwise unchanged side to last week. They've shown they're a different side when Nath is at the helm, and hopefully he can get through the remainder of the season fairly injury-free. There's no doubt that shoulder will still be giving him some problems though, and geez, there's even a chance he doesn't play in this game. Just because he's named doesn't mean that come Friday night he will run out, and I'm sure Ivan Cleary is playing through that scenario in his mind, that if they could get the win without him, then he'll get an extra 2 weeks and hit the prelim in fresh. And saying that though, they get the win with him this week, he's able to get through. He will get next week off to rest up, and then he gets the chance to go again. It takes a bit more of the fate into your own hands, so I do think he will lace up. For the Roosters, Tupou, XL Domi, the old condom, they're both back on the wings, which is big for them. Junior Palga, he drops out, and then of course ex-Waratah, ex-Wallaby, Mark Nawanga-Netawasi, he also drops out of the side. It was a heck of a debut from Marky Mark last week, scored on his first touch off the game, showed off his insane aerial ability, and I was listening to Brandon Smith say that he's actually the best leaper in the team. And when you think about it, the fact they got Dom Young, Joseph Suali'i, Tupou as well, the giraffe who's known for his aerial expertise, the fact that they hold Marky Mark higher than all 3 of them just shows what type of athlete he is. He was paying $7.50 for a first try scorer bet as well, which I happen to be on, so shout out to him, a legend of a bloke. He finished with 122 run meters of 15 carries, 3 tackle breaks, 10 tackles in just the 1 miss. I saw enough from this one game to suggest he's going to be bloody good in the NRL, and perhaps he could move in a position as well and play in the centres. Of course, they're losing Manu and Suali'i, so maybe he could slot straight in to try and fill that void. Hopefully, he's inspired a few other rugby players that are potentially looking to make the switch as well. Another shout out to Shooter, mate. Surely that inspired you. Lindsay Collins and Nat Butcher, they return to the forward pack for this one as well. So overall, I can't wait for this game. Final game at Bluebet before that stadium gets pulled down. I think the Panthers, they'll come away with the win here. I expect them to have too much for the boys from Bondi, but the way the Panthers have been tracking in the last few weeks, this is a really important game for them to hit their straps, get the dub, and book themselves a trip to the prelim. Their home ground advantage helps them massively here too. The Roosters, they haven't bet the Panthers at Bluebet since 2017, and the Panthers have also won the last 9 straight against the Chooks. They have the best defense in the NRL, conceding just 16 points a game, but when you counter that, the Roosters, they have the best attack in the comp, scoring 30 points per game as well. So this is going to be a goodie, expected to be all go from the opening whistle, and can't wait for Friday night finals footy. On your Super Saturday, dished up a doubleheader, 6:05 kickoff, the second of your non-elimination games. You got your Storm taking on the Sharks from Amy Park. Pappenhausen back in the 1, Storm pretty much back to full strength and ready to try and turn their minor premiership into the real deal. They've been the best team all year, finishing 2 wins clear of the second place Panthers. They've got the second best attack behind the Roosters and the 4th best defense, so they really are the complete package, and man is it going to be tough for the Sharks to knock them off, especially with Jerome Hughes in career best form. Surely he wins the Dally M this year. He's had a crazy year, the Kiwis playmaker, which has me excited for international footy as well. Teddy, he'll probably finish close. I think he's hot on his heels, and deservedly so, but if he doesn't win it, this has to be close to SJ getting robbed last year by KP in those final rounds, because for me, Hughes, he's done so much this year without Cam Munster as his running partner, still managed to get the Storm to the minor premiership despite the Mad Dog being out of action for the majority of the season, and just watching him play, his ball running, his kicking game, his ball playing, it's all at an elite standard at the moment, and shit is he in crazy good form. For the Sharkies, they get back Oregon Kafusi, but they potentially lose Tommy Hazelton, old Christopher Skuxon, which could be a massive loss. He's been bloody good for them over the last couple of weeks. Started the season in hot form, went through a bit of a lull patch, but now he's hit his straps late, and he's been one of their best for sure. These sides, they've clashed earlier in the year. A little reminder there, and a nice little upper hand for the Sharks too. They actually got up 25 points to 18 in round 10, and that was at Amy Park as well. Just one of the 2 sides to go to Melbourne and knock them off at home this year, so they can certainly get it done, and no doubt they'll be drawing confidence from that. I just think Melbourne at the moment in crazy good form. Sharkies going decent themselves as well, but I think they just got too many weapons in the duffel bag. I expect Melbourne to get the win, but I do think it will be reasonably tight. First of your elimination finals follows that. Cowboys taking on the Knights. Cows, they've been unreal the last couple of weeks. Best record against top 8 teams in the competition as well, which I find really bizarre because they've been a roller coaster all year, but clearly they've been beating quality opponents. I think they've played top 8 sides 10 times this year, and they've come away with the dub in 7 of those games, including dominating the Dogs at a core stadium last weekend, 44 points to 6. They absolutely ran amok and showed that on their day, they're probably one of the biggest outsiders that can be a premiership threat. Attacking-wise, they can always score plenty of points. They got Scotty Drinkwater, Tommy Dearden running the cutter. Then you got Holmes, Taulangi, Cole Felt, the felt tip out wide. And then on the edges, guys like Jeremiah Nanai and Hylam Lukey as well. 2 great attacking second rowers, so they have the ability to pile on the points. For me, it's just their work defensively, and if they can repeat that effort from last weekend, only conceding 6 to a quality side like the Doggies, then they will well and truly be in the race to play in the prelim. For the Knights, I didn't think they'd make the 8 this year, to be honest, after losing Dommy Young, but off the back of a couple KP clinics, they've found themselves in finals football, and I don't think you can put a line through them in this game either. Historically, they haven't travelled travelled well to Townsville, so that could be a bit of a cross against their name. At the same time, though, we saw what they did to the Dolphins last week, dragged them into an arm wrestle, 14 points to 6. The fact they were able to restrict an attacking powerhouse like the Finns to only 6 points is great signs, and I do think they are pretty finals hardened. They never blow teams out. It's always a close score, which I think can translate well to the pressure of finals footy. They'll be up for this one. I just think the Cowboys in Townsville, just a trip too far, and I expect the home side to come away with the chocolates. And then the final game of the round, Dogs versus Manly, a repeat of 2 weeks ago at a core stadium, and this for me has to be the most interesting of the two knockout games. Both teams have been great to watch at times this year, but both teams have dished up some pretty average performances too, and the way they match up almost oppositely, Manly, big forward pack, explosive, that can get them on the front foot. Then they got DCE and Lukey Brooks, elite kicking game, Tommy Turbo at the back, arguably the biggest attacking threat in the competition. Then you cross that over with the Dogs, pretty undersized forward pack to be fair, but they play a fast brand of footy, like to move the ball through the middle. Their defense, apart from the last 2 games, had them sitting at the top of the comp as well. This is going to be a heck of a game, and one that I think will go right down to the wire. They're saying 50 to 60,000 fans at this one too. No doubt the majority will be Doggies fans, so maybe that could be enough to get them over the line. For Manly, obviously having Turbo back is huge. Their odds of winning shoot up dramatically whenever his name is on the team sheet, and just watching them, it looks like they believe that too. They looked so short of confidence last weekend. Contrast that with the week before. They looked a completely different footy side, so having Tommy T back in the one, that is massive for them. For the Doggies, so much of their success this year has been built around having that defensive lockdown system, but over the last fortnight, they've conceded 78 points in 2 weeks, leaving me to wonder if perhaps the toll of the season is really starting to set in now. They're starting to fatigue and drop off a little. They'll be needing to be on defensively here. Manly are a team that can pile on plenty of points, and in a way, it would almost be a bit heartbreaking to see the Dogs drop out after the fairy tale story that they've been so far this year. I'm a bit split on who to support in this one, to be fair. If I'm the Dogs, I'm looking to go at both Manly halves defensively here. I'm sending Kikau and Jacob Preston at those two every chance I get. They're both not noted defenders. They both had some bad reads in them too, so I think you can play through them and then look to play around them off the back of quick play the balls as well. For Manly, if Paseka, Lodge, Olakauatu, Nathan Brown, if they can dominate the middle, get a roll on against that smaller Doggies pack, generate fast, play the balls, and then allow guys like Tommy Turbo, etc. to push on up through the middle and use DCE's long kicking game as well, then they're going to be bloody hard to beat. I'm thinking Manly here, but I'll touch more on that in the punting segment. Overall, 4 great games, only 9 games left in this season as well. Sad to see we're on the home stretch for the NRL in 2024, but at the same time, strap yourself in. The next 4 weeks are going to be absolute doozies. How bloody good is finals footy? Well, she was deja vu in South Africa. Again, unfortunately, heartbreaking scenes for the All Blacks. Shot out to a nice early lead, but just got pegged back in the last 20 minutes of this clash. 18 points to 12 we went down, with the Springboks racking up their 4th straight win against us, and also claiming the Freedom Cup for the first time since about 2008 or 2009, I think I saw. So massive scenes for them, and now the All Blacks trophy cabinet, she's starting to look a little bit bare. No World Cup title, no Freedom Cup. All we've got left is the old Bledisloe. So hopefully we can defend that in a couple of weeks. I thought we looked really strong in some areas and then looked pretty average in a couple as well. Shout out to the forwards. Won the breakdown, and we really fronted up against a much larger pack. At set piece time, we were really good again, and then at the breakdown, forced more turnovers than them, which is a great nod to our loose forward trio, and I thought we had a great balance there. Wallace Satiti, he was outstanding. His ball running for us was massive. Just his ability to get gain line, had a few nice line breaks as well, allows us to generate fast ball. His skill set in the middle of the paddock is really good too. He can play that back ball out the back of shape to release D D-Mac and our game drivers and allow us to shift the ball to the edge as well. Defensively, he did miss a few tackles, which certainly is a work on, but I think he really put his hand up and made that battle with Ethan Blackadder to start in the 6 in the next couple games really interesting. If Razor does go with Blackadder for the start though, then at least we know we've got Wallace to come in off the Remu and have a massive impact. Maybe he could be a part of our bomb squad and help nullify that little drop-off that we seem to be getting in games at the moment. Then we had Sam Cane. He was your workhorse. Tackles galore. Led the tackle count in this one. He's not your ball carrier, but he's going to get around the paddock, do the tough stuff, put his head where the sun don't shine, and he complements Wallace and Artie really well. And then, of course, you got the number 8, Artie Savia, who's the complete package. He's a workhorse, plus he can carry. So I really like the dynamic of our loose forwards in this one. The back line, bit more of mixed feedback. I thought Cortez Ratama was really good given the opportunity to start. I love the quick ball. He just gets straight to the ruck and lets it go straight away. I do think we could use his running game a little bit more. Maybe he could get out, have a little snipe, taxi, and play some forwards into holes. Use him like a first receiver as well, and we can ball play a little bit off him because he's strong and he's got a really good skill set too. So perhaps we look to build on that in the future. But I thought we saw a massive drop-off once TJ came on, in particular around the speed of the game. And TJ, yet again, similar to the week before, just chirping at the ref all day. I'd love for him to just get there and release the seed. I'm a TJ fan myself, but the last couple of weeks for me have been really disappointing. And I mentioned the other week, of course, he's heading to Japan next year. So in my opinion, you can't take him on the end of year tour. Cam Roygaard, rumours he ran a 4:29 Bronco the other day on his return to fitness, and they think he'll be back playing for counties in the next couple of weeks. You'd have to assume that he comes straight in. If not, guys like Finlay Christie, Falau Fakatava playing great code at NPC level. I'll be chucking them back in the mixer for sure. The rest of the back line, I thought the back three really struggled. Will Jordan looked a little bit out of depth at fullback, which was disappointing to see, but of course, coming back off a big layoff as well, so perhaps he was just chucked in the deep end a little early there. And then our two wingers, I thought they really struggled under the high ball in particular, and I think everyone saw this coming from South Africa. Once they named their side with Andre Pollard and Willie LaRue in the back line instead of Sasha Feinenberg and Fessy, we knew that there was a kicking game coming, an aerial onslaught. Sevu Reece, not the biggest body, and I thought Mark Talia really struggled there as well. So in hindsight, maybe we would have been better with Bodie at the back, Will Jordan on the wing, just for a bit more size. A disappointing day for those three. Of course, all three with massive X factor, and on their day, they can all be game breakers. I'd certainly still be rolling out Will Jordan at 15. Don't get me wrong, I'm not calling for that change because that is where he plays his best code. I just do wonder if he got a little bit exposed, a bit of rust, and he could have done with more time on the saddle starting this game in the wing, and then look to bring him back into the 15 jersey against the Wallabies. And saying that though, I was calling for him to play 15 last week, so hey, you really can't win. I thought Rico Ioane looked really good on the wing in that last 20 minutes too. I love that switch when we brought ALB on and moved Rico to the left. I reckon that's still his best position at international level, and every time he got the ball and carried, he got us gain line, and he's a great option short side just to give our forwards a break, because man can he carry. So perhaps that's something we look at as well against Australia. I'd love to see ALB or even Proctor get the start there. I think they could help unlock our backline a little more. And then in the first 5 jersey, and this is going to be really interesting for me, what we do from here, because I do think we need to start thinking of this as a 4-year World Cup cycle. Do we invest in D-Mac and continue to give him time? Because I think for any first 5 to succeed, you need to be in that position regularly, establishing combinations and just building up your confidence. It's going to be so hard on these guys if each week they're chopping and changing. So I'll be interested to see if Razor sticks with D-Mac there, if he goes with Bodie like a lot of people are calling for. But you do have to factor in Bodie's 33 now, and I can't see him making that World Cup in 2027. He'll be 37 odd years old. Surely he doesn't have that long in him. Of course, Richie Mo'unga is the guy that everyone wants to come back, but under the current rules, and New Zealand Rugby just reinforced that they won't be looking to change it either, then he's ineligible. So basically that leaves us with D-Mac and Harry Plummer if they want to play the long-term game. Plummer looks like he's going to lace up for Auckland this weekend, so keen to see how he goes. But you still have to think, probably out of the two, D-Mac our best option, but let's see what Razor thinks. So overall, a pretty interesting trip to South Africa, and we've got to tip our hat to them, and I don't think it's means to panic either. Of course, we're taking on the number one ranked side on their home soil in really difficult conditions, have 7 guys in our squad that had never played any level of rugby over in Africa. It absolutely is a cauldron. Their supporter base is like nothing else, so this will be a massive learning experience for them. So overall, I actually think we played pretty well in both of those games, and shit would the narrative have been different if we'd gone on to win just one of them. And I also think the narrative would have been different around Razor and this team at the moment if we'd beaten Argentina in both our home games, because all of a sudden then we've only lost 2 of our rugby championship games against the best side away from home. When you throw in that third one at home against Argentina, that is where the haters start to get a little bit of a foot to stand on. So these next 2 games up against the Wallabies are going to be really interesting. I tell you what, if the Wallabies had bet the Pumas on the weekend, I would have been going into that first game over in Sydney pretty nervous. The fact they got towelled up, I think Argentina won the second half 50 points to 7 or something ridiculous like that. I think that eases a little bit of the pressure on us. At the same time though, the New Zealand public, they're going to be expecting us to pump the Wallabies over there. I'm not sure we put a cricket score on them, but I do hope to see an 80-minute performance. Hopefully we can sort out this bench rotation. I think it was Tyrell Lomax on the weekend played 70 straight minutes before he got binned there at the end. A starting prop should not be playing 70 minutes without getting subbed. So clearly Razor, he's got a few work-ons. He's been saying he's been learning a lot from these experiences too. So I'm keen to see what he rolls out against the Wallabies in a couple of weeks' time. Then over to the NPC, some interesting results and some big storylines as well. Of course, the biggest storyline had to be Tasman taking the shield for the first time, beating Hawke's Bay right at the death with a clutch nudge from Parata to help them get the win, 25 points to 24, and it was absolute scenes. You love to see it as well, and if this wasn't the perfect example of how much NPC footy means to local communities, then I don't know what is. There's no way supporter bases would have showed up like that if it was a Super Rugby side winning a local derby. Clearly the Ranfurly Shield still holds massive significance in New Zealand rugby, and it was great to see the people in Nelson get out there and welcome back this Tasman side after they went the big lift. Big Jim Tavatavanawai as well. What a weapon that bloke is. Man, he must be pushing close to a representative jersey as well. If not for the All Blacks, then I'd love to see him play for Fiji. He is an attacking weapon, and one-on-one, he just can't be stopped. Shout out to Hawke's Bay as well. Looked like they were dead and buried in this game. Down 19 points to 5. Fought their way back and almost managed to defend the shield. So that was a massive effort from them in what was a quality game. In terms of the other results, Bay of Plenty, they pumped the Turbos. Wellington, too good for Southland. Peter Lakai, another one that's putting his hand up for All Black selection. It'll be interesting to see as well if he makes that end-of-year Northern tour, because for me, Sam Cane, 2 games off 100 tests. I think he'll get both starts against the Aussies. That would then mean he reaches that milestone. He's not here next year, so I'd be swapping him out and bringing in a Peter Lakai, who could be just what we're needing at the 7 jersey. Imagine a trio of Satiti, Lakai, and Adi Savia. Shit, would that be gun? You could bring Wallace and Lakai off the bench too, and man, would they add massive impact. Otago, they got done by Canterbury at home. Taranaki, they were too strong for Waikato. Counties, back-to-back dubs over Northland. Nanai Satoro again running amok. Perhaps he could play his way into a Northern Tour berth as well. And then the biggest, most controversial game of the weekend, of course, had to be in the Battle of the Bridge. Auckland up against North Harbour. Auckland get their first win of the season, but shit, it must feel hollow. Sweaty ball gate, that's what it's been dubbed. 36 points to 32. They got the win over North Harbour, but in bloody interesting circumstances, and it was a great game to watch. As a mutual fan, I'm sure everyone out there watching with no skin in the game really enjoyed that one. 68 points scored in 80 minutes. Some of the tries, some great team and individual efforts too. But man, that last couple minutes, shit was that controversial. If you haven't seen it. Of course, Harbour player goes down cramping, so referee calls time off, and that's when the Auckland halfback pulls off some of the best work I've ever seen from a 9, and of course, they're known for being cheeky. They've always got all these tricks. You see it at club rugby level. They're standing on the opposition halfback's feet at scrum time, so when they feed the ball and then go to run off, they trip up. Little tricks like that. They're constantly pushing each other and chirping away, but I hadn't seen anything like this before, to be fair. Of course, the player grabs the ball, rubs his face all over it, gets the sweat all over the ball, then he walks around his teammates, starts rubbing the ball on their jersey too, rubbing the gilbert right into that cotton, that polyester, whatever the jerseys are made of these days, getting the sweat all over it. Then he grabs a water bottle and proceeds to squirt water all over it just as the TV camera cuts away. Then ref calls time on for a scrum. Bryn Hall grabs the ball. That was a rhyme that I did not intend to have, but Hall grabs the ball. She's wet, so he goes to swap it with the ball boy, wants a dry one. Straight away, the Auckland players, they'd planted the seed. The halfback had told them. Hooker brings it up, says, oh, referee, time wasting. That's a free kick, and they played it out perfectly. Ref, completely bamboozled. He hasn't seen any of the antics that goes on. Blows a free kick. Auckland go a few phases, and then ex-Westlaker, which almost makes it hurt even more. Should be a Harbour lad. Caleb Tangatau dots down for a try on the hooter to secure Auckland the dub. Fair to say shooter Bryn Hall weren't happy with the ref at full time, but hey, it is what it is. Look, by all means, I heard Bryn Hall talk about it the other day. He said it's play on, and he actually does that himself in games fairly often. I was speaking to Piriwepu about it as well, and he said that that's the oldest trick in the book. I just personally hadn't seen it done before, so if you see a real pandemic of halfbacks doing that over the next few weeks and in club rugby next year, then you know where it's came from. Certainly eyes up footy from the Auckland 9. Not sure it's fair play, and I was pretty pissed off about it at the time, but hey, it is what it is. On we march though, and Harbour, shit do we need a win this weekend, up against Manawatu, who are winless, and saying that, we're still just in ninth despite having the one win, because we love a bonus point, we love a close loss within 7, and we love scoring plenty of tries, so that's what's keeping us in the competition at the moment. This week, week 6 and 9, so only 3 or 4 more games for most of these sides before we get to finals time. The season well and truly flying by. We've got Southland taking on Canterbury. I think Canterbury will be too good there. Then we've got Bay of Plenty, Taranaki. I like the bop at home, but we'll touch more on that in the punting. Harbour versus Manawatu, need to get the job done at the dog pound here. No doubt there'll be bugger all people in attendance yet again, but a big win here will get our season back on track, push us back into the 8, and hopefully lock us into finals footy, which I do think we deserve to be in, despite not getting the results. We love playing for 90% of games at the moment, but hopefully this week we pull off the complete performance. Would hate to lose to the old Turbos. Waikato versus Hawke's Bay. Hawke's Bay will be looking to bounce back from that disappointing loss of the Shield last week. Counties versus Otago. And then Tasman versus Wellington. That is the game on everyone's lips, and by all accounts, Harry Plummer, he's meant to be back for Auckland when they take on Northland this weekend, so surely that signals that Wellington and Tasman will both have their non-playing All Blacks from these tour games available too. I'm thinking David Harville back in the mixer, Noah Hotham as well for Tasman, and then for Wellington, they should get Proctor and Ruben Love, which will make this game even more of a quality spectacle. Both sides already stacked on paper. Wellington playing tonight in their Storm Week, resting Riggs so that they're ready to go. 2 undefeated teams in the competition going at it for arguably the biggest prize in the comp. I think if you ask the players if they'd rather win the NPC or hold the log of wood for the summer, then a lot of them, majority, I would say, would go the log of wood. So this should be a heck of a game. Can't wait for this one. Sunday Arvo, 2 p.m. That's a heck of a time slot too. So can't wait to sink the teeth into that. Another great week of NPC action, so that should be a great watch. Head along to your local pub, get out and support your team if they're playing a home game too. They need bums on seats. There's all this talk, Aussie want to ditch Super Rugby. If that's the case, then I'd be saying let's go back to NPC, but at the same time, it needs to be profitable for all these unions. So let's get out there, get amongst it, spend some of our hard-earned cash, show up to these games, and show New Zealand Rugby that NPC is the best competition going round. Get up the mighty Harbour Heat. All right, time to have a Carmichael punt, and gotta say before we get into things, shout out to the TAB as well. Loving their new little upgrades on the TAB app. If you haven't seen them already, when you go to place a head-to-head bet, it tells you who's won out of their last 5 games. Then you jump on some anytime try scorers, tells you how many tries each player's scored in their last 5 games as well, which can be bloody handy stats, and surely that helps us lead to more green ticks on bet slips. Remember as well that Surly code this week applies to all of your NRL finals games, so chuck in that code STS50 before you have a punt on any of the league action this weekend, and the TAB will match your bet up to $50 in bonus cash, which is pretty elite scenes. Of course, tomorrow night, Panthers take on the Chooks. Panthers are $1.38 favourites, the Chooks paying $3.05 rugby league cents. The line is 7.5, which I actually quite like because it's outside of that converted try margin. And saying that though, all the stats here suggest that the Panthers will be on. They've won their last 9 straight against the Roosters. The Roosters haven't won at Bluebet since 2017, which of course, by my quick math, is 7 years ago. The Panthers as well, they're aiming to equal the premiership record of 10 consecutive finals victories. When it comes to September footy, no one does it better than Ivan's lads. Isaiah Yeo, he'll also equal the club's most appearance record of 243 games, which is pretty crazy considering he's still only 29 years old. He's got at least another few years in him, so he should rack up the 300 for sure. For your try scorers in this game, of course, Roosters, they're conceding 44% of their tries to left side attacks, so I think Brian To'o, he's a really good shout. He's only scored 3 tries in his last 5 games, which for a quality winger like him, that's probably down on previous years, but he's paying $1.80 here and $3.40 to be the first, second or third try scorer in this match. Then you jump across to the other wing, Sunia Turuva, he's paying the exact same. He's scored 4 tries in his last 3 games, loves immediate Bluebet Stadium as well. So both of the Panthers wingers are good shouts. For the Chooks, the Panthers are conceding a whopping 57% of tries to left side attacks. That's actually the highest amount of any side in the competition, which to me screams that Dom Young, the XL Dommy, he's a must get on. $2.15 for him. That's probably a season high. It's not often you get the big fella at those odds. He scored 6 tries in his last 4 games. He's paying $4.40 for first, second or third as well. Then for a value shot, someone outside of your wingers, Satili Tupanua paying $4.25. He scored 5 tries in his last 5 games, plays that utility role off the bench for the Chooks, and I think he could prove to be a handful here. For your same game multi though, of course, place the 3+ leg same game multi. Misses by 1, you get your money back up to $50 in bonus cash as well. I'm going Panthers into Brian To'o and Dommy Young, $5.71. A nice little wicked wingers multi there. Your boost for this game is Brian To'o anytime, Panthers 1 to 12 paying $6. I actually love that bet. And then the second one is Dom Young, 2 or more tries at $6.50. I don't mind that either, but the Panthers only conceding about 16 to 18 points a game, I think it is. Best D in the comp, so I think the Roosters will find it hard to score points. Your power plays, best one for me, any starting winger, first try scorer, $2.60. Some quality options, 4 of the best finishers in the game, so that should be a pretty good shout. Friday night, Storm take on the Sharkies at home. Storm $1.30, Sharks $3.50. The Storm, they've won 6 of their last 8 against the Sharks and have won 6 of their last 8 finals games at Amy Park too. The Sharkies, they did beat them earlier in the year though on the road, so we know that they can pull it off. They've lost their past 6 straight finals matches though. They've gone out in straight sets in the last 6 years, which is pretty tough. Toby Rudolph, he'll make his 100th NRL game only a few years back where he backflipped on the Warriors. I think a lot of people forget about that. Me, myself included, was reminded of it the other day. For your try scorers, Storm winger Xavier Coates, 29 tries in 25 games at Amy Park. He scored 4 tries in his last 5 games, paying $1.78 here. Then you jump across to the other wing, the Brick, William Warbrick. He bagged a hat-trick last week. He's paying $1.85. Ali Katoa, 4 tries in 3 games, and I really like this matchup for him. Running at the Sharks halves, both Tricky Trindle and Nico Hines, not known for their defensive prowess. $2.65 for him. That should be a straight mismatch, and no doubt Hughes will look to play him into a few holes. And then then speaking of the headgeared assassin, this year's Dally M. Shawley, 4 tries in his last 2 games. Mr. Jerome Hughes, the great Kiwi halfback, off the back of a hat-trick last weekend, paying $2.85. Not a bad shout there for the Sharkies. Ronaldo Mulatalo, he's a weapon. 7 tries in his last 4 games. $2.25 for him. That's as big a price as you'll ever find him. And then I also like Britain Nikora. He scored 5 tries in his last 5 games. $3.60 here. Him and Ali Katoa, some elite back rowers, and they're pretty good buying in this one. For your same game multi, I'm going Storm into Coates and Katoa at $5.72. There's a boost as well, which I really like. A bit of a Kiwi double header, and that's Hughes or Nikora anytime at $2.60. So either of those two can dot down. I think that's great value. 2.6 times your money for a pretty decent punt. Cowboys versus Knights. There should be points in this one. Cowboys have won their last 3 straight against the Knights. The Knights haven't won in Townsville since 2015. The Cowboys have won 7 of their last 8 finals games played in Townsville as well. So all the stats scream that the home side should be too good. Knights, though, any team with KP and his hot form that he's in at the moment, they shouldn't be underestimated. For your try scorers, Fletcher Sharp. He scored 8 tries in his last 5 games. The Newcastle winger paying $2.15. Didn't score last week either, so going by those stats, that suggests it's a bit of a famine for him. Bradman Best, he hasn't scored in his last 3 games either, and we all know he likes the big stage. When it comes Origin time and finals time, he likes to rise to the occasion. $3.05 for him, that is pretty good value. KP, paying the same price as well. When you think about the narrative, they're returning to Townsville. Cowboys, of course, let him go. There may be a nice little revenge bet option there. For the Cowboys, Kyle Felt, the Felt tip, 11 tries in his past 6 games, including a double in each of his last 3 straight. That's pretty crazy stuff. $1.60 anytime for him, or $3.20 for 2 or more, which I think is a legit option. And then you got Murray Taulangi on the other wing, 3 tries in his last 2 games. $1.94 for him. Valentine Holmes as well. Great buying at $2.15. 5 tries in his last 3 games. And I reckon they could be on down that side of Felt and Holmes. For your same game multi though, I'm going Cowboys into Felt and Sharp. Another wicked winger option. I love my wingers in these games just because when you look around the competition, they've been scoring tries aplenty. $5.30 for that. Not the worst shout. For your boosts, Bradman Best, anytime try scorer. Knights win, paying $7.40. And then the TAB, they're thinking along the same lines as me. Felt and Holmes, both to dot anytime at $4.50. A decent flutter there. For your Super Sunday, last game at NRL for the weekend. Doggies $1.95, underdogs at home at a core stadium. The Manly Gulls $1.87 favourites on the road. The Bulldogs, of course, they have a 10-2 home record this year, but those 2 losses have come in their last 2 straight games at the hands of Manly. And then, of course, they got dished up on the weekend against the Cowboys. Manly, they've won 4 of their last 5 games against the Bulldogs, so they've had the upper hand on them recently. For your try scorers, Dogs, they're conceding 49% of their tries to left side attacks, which leads me straight to the son of the great man, John Hopewadi, Big Lehigh. Surely he dots here. He scored 5 tries in his last 5 games. Didn't score last week. That broke a 6-game streak where he dotted in every single one. So surely he's on here at $2.05. And then, of course, Tommy Turbo. You can't go past the kid. 7 tries in his last 4 games. He scored in all 4 straight as well. $1.94 for him. That is massive value. For the Doggies, no Adokar. Of course, he's out. So Jason Kiraz moves back to the wing. He scored 3 tries in his last 2 starts on the wing. And Manly, they're conceding 44% of tries to right side attacks. Of course, he's the right winger, $2.15, pretty juicy odds for him. My same game multi here for this one though, I'm going Manly into Lehigh and Tommy. I think the Gulls get it done in a heartbreaking loss for the Doggies in front of what should be a massive crowd. They're saying 50 or 60,000 turning out to this. Bums on seats for sure, but that's paying $5.72 to round out those games. And then finally, a cheeky little multi. I'm going to chuck on a Wicked Wingers multi. To'o, Coates, favourites. Felt, Lehigh, $10.50. I reckon that is insane value right there. So go and get amongst that. Then jumping across to your NPC, I think she's round 6 now in this beautiful, glorious competition. Last week I went 6 from 7. Only game I got wrong, Harbour. A big up yours to that Auckland halfback there. I'm now 16 from 21 for the NPC this season. So the old Bunnings Far Cup, she's dishing up ticks left, right and centre. In terms of tomorrow night's game, Southland 380, Canterbury $1.25. As much as I hate the red and black team, I'd love to tip against them. Unfortunately, I think they're going to be too strong for Southland in Invercargill, so I'll back them to get the job done. Super Saturday, this is where I think it gets interesting. Bay of Plenty up against Taranaki. This should be an absolute doozy. 4th against 5th with the home side, Bay of Plenty $2 underdogs, Taranaki $1.75. I like Bop for the upset here. I guess you couldn't call it that much of an upset. Only 15 cents different in the price. And saying that, if Perifeta is back for Taranaki, not sure where he's at with his injury, but that would be a massive swing. I'm getting on Bay of Plenty though. I like them 1 to 12. You could also tease them out on an alternative line, but 1 to 12 at $3.30. I think that looks like a great bet right here. Harbour versus Manawatu. Harbour Heat $1.13 favourites. The Turbos $5.25. Shit would better win with those odds, and nothing makes me more nervous than when we are massive favourites, because Harbour, you never quite know with our lads. Of course, the Turbos, they're still winless. Harbour just the one win, but we're sitting in 9th thanks to all those bonus points. Surely we turn it on at home up against the Turbos side that will be low in confidence and in fizz levels. The Furnace will be out in big numbers, so I'm going to back Harbour 13 plus at $1.50. And once again, SoFi Maka, Cade Banks, walking green ticks. Every week they've saluted for us, so chuck them in. I think Shooter's a good shot as well, and Moses Leo. We should be scoring tries aplenty, especially out wide, so check out your power plays on the day once the teams are named, because I think there could be some good shopping in that one. Waikato versus Hawke's Bay. Waikato $2 underdogs at home. Hawke's Bay $1.75. Hawke's Bay, they'll be stinging from losing the Shield. Waikato, they've been alright over the last couple of weeks. Pushed Taranaki to the death, and then of course they beat Auckland the week before. I think Hawke's Bay bounced back here, but I do think there's a bit of value in Waikato on an alternative line because it's going to be really tight. Hawke's Bay 1 to 12 if I had to make a call, so get around them. Expect the Magpies to be fired up here. Saturday, Counties up against the Golden O. Odds not out for that one because, of course, I record these on a Wednesday. Arvo Otago playing tonight up against Wellington. Hopefully they can pull off the upset there. Got them at $3.80 earlier in the week. They've been crunched into $2.40 due to that Lions side, so many players being rested for Super Sunday. But Otago, they've got 11 bodies out as well, so that should be an interesting watch. I'm going to back Counties at home. I just think they're a different side at the moment with Etene Nanai Satoro in the mixer. Will be tight though, so 1 to 12, a good option right there. I expect there'll be underdogs for that one, so could be a bit of value there too. Northland, $2.80 favourites against Auckland, $1.40. Harry Plummer appears he's back. Saw some videos of him in the mixer at training, and that is a massive swing for Auckland. They've lacked a bit of direction at times. They get the tradie back, looking to prove a point too and push his way into possible All Black selection up against the Wallabies in a couple weeks' time. So I'm going to go Auckland here on the nose at $1.40. Before I knew Plummer was in the mix, I had them 1 to 12 at $2.60, but I think he could push them up above into that 13 plus threshold. And then Tasman versus Wally. No odds out for this one yet because, of course, the Lions, they're in their storm week. But I'm really looking forward to this game. If Plummer's back, then surely that means everyone else back on deck as well. So I'm thinking your Harvillies for Tasman, Noah Hotham as well. And then for Wellington, surely you get the likes of your Proctors and Ruben Loves too. So it should be a star-studded affair. I'm going to back Tasman at home. Why not? To defend the Shield. Wellington, they'll be fired up for this one, but I think this is a game where they will miss Duplessis Karifi finally. One of these teams is going to walk away from this no longer undefeated. I'll back the Marco and friend of the show, Tim Sale, to defend the Shield and continue the bender. Fingers crossed, none of them are still hungover from their celebrations during the week. How bloody good is NPC code? And then to my bet of the week, hit last week. We're now 18 from 25 5 on these. Ran a multi, which was pretty dangerous. All Blacks plus 6.5. Of course, they lost by 6, so that was a tick. And then Tasman over Hawke's Bay. That was paying $2.32, that little multi. Shout out to Parata, who slotted that clutch nudge at the end to get us home by the skin of our sacks. We're now 72% this year for these, which is pretty good punting. So this week, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Of course, no All Blacks, no Warriors anymore. Those were my go-tos. Gonna play some finals footy here and multi up the Panthers into the Storm at $1.82. Does make me a little bit nervous. Both those teams favourites in a non-elimination final. But hey, I'm gonna back the 1 and 2 seed going into finals time to get the job done, and salute for the punters. How bloody good. Once again, shout out to the TAB, R18, gamble responsibly. Only bet what you can afford, but use that code STS50 if you are having a flutter on God's game this weekend. Well, that's us for the Surly Pod this week. Short and sharp, nice and punchy. Of course, only the 4 NRL games, so that cuts down a bit of time. And yes, I did forget to throw up the question box for your Q&A. Sincerest apologies. I'll be sure to chuck her back up next week, so make sure you fire through your questions there. In the meantime, though, enjoy all the sporting action. Shout out to Navajo Sterling, who got the win as well in the UFC. Second round KO dub in the Dana White Contender Series to book himself a gig, secure himself a contract. Dude looks like the next big superstar, of course, out of CKB, so great to see another Kiwi fighter getting results on the sport's biggest stage. I'll be back here, same time, same place next week to chew the fat and dissect all the big results. Go out, have a good one. How good.